I will spend about 15 seconds on myself telling you why, if you haven't met me before or we haven't. Can you guys see my screen from crickets to conversions? We good?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Um, I'll share a little bit about kind of the why, like why in the heck should you listen to, a lady that is all the way across the country about go-to-market strategy. So my role at Darwinian is managing partner. We've helped about 100 early stage SaaS teams go from zero to something repeatable. So today I'm going to give you those exact frameworks that we use to fix broken outbound or build outbound and turn sales from kind of that guessing game into a system. So some things I'm saying you may have heard the same type of flavor before, but I try to, present things in a way that is kind of latest and greatest and frame it up differently. If you're like me, I've got to hear something about 8 times before it settles in. So yeah, let's jump into what the day-to-day that you guys are experiencing, which is juggling a million things at one time. You're raising money, you're shipping features, you're interviewing, maybe you're founding AE or somewhere in between, right? So also you're supposed to be closing revenue. So it's like a million things going on. I know that's a grind. And then worse than that, it can really be a trap for wasting effort. So you're burning hours, maybe you're chasing leads with a message that may not be landing. Your pipeline could be just a list of first names that you hope will eventually book time with you. So if any of this sounds familiar, then this session is going to be a very fast moving tactical reset that I'm going to try to wrap up in 25 minutes. I think I can do it. I'm challenge accepted. But I never try to throw any fluff at you guys and kind of give you those exact systems that you need. So I think, for me, I'm going to help show you how to build a piece of a scalable sales engine. Your job is to take what you learned here and, stop spinning your wheels. So I think the brutal truth is where we start. Being able to articulate the ICP beyond title and industry is a problem that I see when I start working with most of my clients, right? So they're going to say, "Hey, I'm mid-market CFOs. That's my ICP," and that's actually not your ICP, right? It's more of like a mailing list or something like that. I think what we're going to do is kind of rewire how you think about the ICP and start with like an if you want to call it that, like anti-ICP template. So like jot this down. So despite trying X, they still can't Y, which is costing them Z, right? So here's what this could look like. Despite buying Lattice, they still can't stop mid-level managers from skipping interviews, right? Which is costing them promotions, it's costing them morale, it's costing them retention, right? Like fill in the blank for what it's costing them. But I think this level of specificity and this level of pain and this level of something actionable is going to map to urgency, right? So let me give you those 3 questions that you should answer before you ever touch a lead list, right? Get my life straightened out here. So the 3 questions that you need to answer: who feels the pain enough to take a call today, right? So sorry, what have they already tried that has failed? And then what is the cost going to be of inaction in that space? So taking the first question, who feels the pain enough to take a call today? Not eventually, not someday, right? It's got to be something pretty urgent. If they've already tried something and they failed at it, then they're ready. If they haven't tried, they're not ready. And then the cost of doing nothing is going to be like something that's obvious. And if it's not obvious, then you're not in the deal. So I think jotting down those 3 questions is really important. And then you want to, I don't think you actually need like some massive Notion board to figure this out. I think that looking in your CRM or looking at your spreadsheet of your last, 5 closed won deals and kind of reverse engineer the patterns. So here's what you should look for and extract. So job title and pain. So not VP of sales. That's not enough. Say, hey, this was a VP of sales that was stuck in a 9-month deal cycle with no CRM hygiene, right? Get really specific. What was the use case and what was the urgency? So what forced the deal? Was it a budget reset? Was it a board mandate? Was it churn, right? Like what forced the deal through the pipeline? And then who's the owner of the budget? Who's the blocker? So who owned the wallet? And then who almost blew the deal up? Look back at those pieces, and that's how you're going to build an ICP that sells without, focusing on the persona, kind of the fluffiness around it. This is going to be patterns that can correlate to your conversion. This is probably familiar. I use a lot of different frameworks for writing emails. If you came to my last session, I talked about why us, why you, why now, right? That's one framework that I like to use. This is a little bit of a variation on that. I think we can all agree that right now cold emails are absolute trash. I opened my inbox this morning and I saw probably the same thing you saw. Hope this finds you well. I wanted to circle back. Quick question about Q2 planning, right? Delete, block, or something like that. So the 4-line cold email is going to fix that without scroll. Everything's going to be in one screen. And you want to make it really obvious that this is not an email blast, right? So you're going to start with your trigger and you're going to, like I said, make it obvious it's not a mass blast. So this is what that example would look like. Saw you hired 5 CS reps, right? There's your trigger. Then you're going to go with your pain. You're going to make it relatable. You're going to make it urgent. So Series A teams tell me that onboarding at that stage is chaos. That's the pain. How we help? Be brief, be relevant. Here's what we did. We built a playbook for it, right? And then your last one should be your CTA. Make it closed-ended, make it low friction, worth chatting, right? Like one of my reps sent a list of kind of like this really great resource he found, and I'm sure that just Googling it works, but like what are different CTAs that you can test that are soft CTAs, right? Where you're not saying, hey, let me get 20 minutes of your time. I would not recommend using that, right? You could say like, hey, is this worth chatting next week or should we punt it until June, right? Something that doesn't sound like what everyone else is sending. And a little bit of a callback to the last training that I did, be you, right? So if it's not like you to say, should we punt this, then don't say it, right? If it's like you to say, is your calendar a freaking dumpster fire, then say it, right? Your superpower right now is your founder status and your voice. So use it versus, trying to sound like everybody else. So that's it for the cold email. Let's look at kind of the tactic that I would recommend. Take your last 5 cold emails, cut it 50%, then cut it by another 30%. Unless you've done that already, which if you have, good for you. Then you want to strip out every single just checking in, every single circle back until you're left with a sharp knife, right? You don't want the spoon email. So the mindset would be, if it reads like a sequence, it's going to die like a sequence, right? It's going to go nowhere. If it looks like GPT wrote it, then they're going to assume that you didn't care enough to try. And a lot of these lengthy emails are just straight out of GPT. And if it's not readable on the mobile in under 10 seconds, then start over, right? So add a sent via mobile to the signature. This is like, if you hear nothing else, do this thing, right? Add sent via mobile to the signature, and it really will make your email seem like an off-the-cuff email from a human, right? Try that and see what happens. So the action item, go to your inbox, pick 5 recent emails, rewrite them using that 4-line format, and then, send like do it now. Go ahead and get them sent out. Okay, now we come to the 27-second call script. Founder's favorite activity, picking up the phone. It is murder. It is absolute torture, but do it for real. Just embrace the suck and pick up the phone. Calling and just saying, hey, this is a cold call. Do you want to hang up on me, or do you have 27 seconds, right? 27 seconds may be overused, but you get the idea. And then just pause and let them react, right? That I think this will create some credibility and curiosity instead of just launching into, hey, this is who I am. This is what I do. But the big thing is permission, right? You need permission from that person. And unless they give it, you're going to go nowhere, right? So start with your permission. Then you want to do some type of personalized pain statement. Then you're going to give some type of insight and you're going to ask. So this is what it could look like. Step one, just walking through kind of step by step. I saw you grew your CS team last month. Series A teams usually get slammed with process gaps at this specific stage, right? Next step, we've helped other SaaS companies in the same boat by cutting their onboarding time in half, usually within the first 45 days. Would it be crazy to unpack this together next week? Right? That's the full script. It should land under 30 seconds. It should actually be way shorter than that. That's what I would try to kind of cull, or I guess cull it down to, is something really short and sweet that fits this type of framework. And then practice it, read it aloud, record yourself back saying it. You're probably, sorry, but you're probably worse at it than you think you are. And if you actually send it to someone in an audio text, or you send it to yourself in an audio text, you're like, oh my gosh, my name comes out like, ooh, or the name of my company is being missed. You notice here that the example I gave, I didn't even say the name of the company. Like, it doesn't matter if it's kind of like the Giga Party, right, Chris? If the party's great, who cares what the name is, right? So the name is not so important. And a lot of times prospects will get caught up on that, right? So if your name is difficult to understand, right, you just kind of got to figure out what makes sense for that. And also, doesn't really matter, right? People will say, who is this? What company are you calling from? Just get to the personalized pain statement and see if you can crack that open. The script will work if you make it your own. And I know there's some comments coming in. I'll try my best to kind of catch those.
And hey, Laura, real quick, I'm keeping an eye on the comments, so if anything pops up, I'll bring it to your attention. Okay.
Okay, cool, perfect. I think we're rounding the bend here. I'm gonna try to wrap up in the next 5. So you guys have heard me say this before if you've come to one of my talks, but forecasts aren't feelings, right? They're formulas. If you can't explain your pipeline like a P&L, then it's a guess, right? So this is kind of the baseline math that you're going to need to run your org like a CRO, even if you're still closing deals yourself, right? So you need meetings booked divided by total touches. So this is your outbound efficiency. And if it's under 1%, then your targeting is broken or your messaging is broken. So this is a good place to look. Then you should also be able to track your discovery to demo to proposal to close. So these are your conversion rates. You should know these cold, right? And it should be like, 70, 50, 30, something like that. Because this will tell you where your funnel's leaking. And then your ACV times your close rate. So your average contract value times your close rate is going to give you that forecastable revenue. So this is the number that your board wants, right? Not your vibe on the deal, not your gut feeling, just the math piece. So if you're booking 12 meetings a month, 50% of those move to demo, 50% of those get a proposal, and then 25% go to close, and your ACV is 10%. So that's 12, 6, 3, and then like 0.75 deals closed per month. So 9K in revenue, something like that. And now you've got something that's forecastable and predictable. You don't need a massive rev plan. You can do something lightweight like this. And then track it by channel, right? So if your cold outbound is converting at 1.2%, and then your, partner leads are closing at 6%, then, double down on what is scaling there. And if you don't know this, your pipeline is not a revenue engine, right? I'll go fast here. So most founders go into pitching, and that is a mistake. You are not there to sell. You are there to trap. So remember that I have a 4-step structure that can walk you through that. If you guys will email me, I will send that to you, because I don't think we have time to go over that. But basically, it is step 1 is the problem, the impact, and the why now, right? You kind of have those pieces. Then you're going to ask them, how have you tried solving this in the past, right? They're going to tell you who they've talked to, why it didn't work, and who they're comparing you to, right? Then you're going to sell outcomes. You're not going to sell features. So you're not going to say, hey, we have dashboards and analytics. You're going to say, what if your team could forecast revenue with 90% accuracy and cut your CAC in half, right? So you're going to tie everything to outcomes, not to functionality at all. And then you're going to close strong. So let me know if you'd like to continue, right? Chris knows this. He's been on enough sales calls with me. I will not let them move on without scheduling some type of next step. So that's kind of the framework. You can email me, laura@darwinian.com. I will send this to you. And then if you Google the John Barrow summary email, it's hot stuff, right? Like, it's really, really good. I won't go into it here.
Hey,
And
Laura,
then
we have time
wrap
for
up. Yeah.
one quick question.
Yeah.
And we're doing pretty good on time too. So,
Are we?
yeah, we're it's only 11:30, so I think we're in a good place. But Deborah asked and someone thumbed it, so let's maybe address it. Do you have any
Yeah.
good benchmarks for SaaS per industry, in terms of discovery, demo, proposal, like the whole pipeline?
Yes.
Or
I
like,
would, per industry.
yeah, or like what's a good way to think about benchmarks, like maybe per industry?
And you're talking about like close, you're talking about this discovery, demo,
Yeah.
proposal, close.
Mhm.
Okay. I don't know by industry, but what we look for in general is, from discovery to close, it should be 10 to 15% is the total conversion rate from a qualified discovery call through closed one,
Mhm.
right? So a couple other things I can mention. If your discovery to demo is below 50%, then you're probably running weak disco calls, or you're poorly qualifying your leads, right? So there's one leak in your funnel. So let's look at demo to proposal. If that's under 40 to 50%, maybe a little lower than 50. So let's just say 40. If it's under 40%, then your demo is not aligning with like the pain or the outcomes that, that your tool can give. So 50 here, a little less, maybe 40 here. And then proposal to close, if it's consistently under 20%, then your pricing structure, your urgency, competitive positioning, and follow-up in general are off, right? So this could be like any number of issues. So the total number should be 10 to 15% of what you're putting in should come out the other side. And then those other metrics I mentioned should help you find, a leaky spot in your pipeline.
Awesome. Thank you.
Any other question? Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I have my little timer here, and I think I was a little early on what was left. So thanks for letting me know. I can slow it down a little bit. Um, so let's go back to let's go back to this slide here. So let me talk through a little bit of what the John Barrow's summary call is. If you guys don't know him, he's just a great SaaS sales leader, someone to follow. He sends out a great newsletter. We've done a lot of work for John. We actually built out a lot of his CRM. He's super great to work with. So what John does is after the call, he sends a summary email. And the summary email highlights current situation, pain, what they've tried, the timeline, and next step. So he just sends it like bullet points, right? Just Google John Barrow's summary email. There's an article about it. It's really great. But what it does is it holds them accountable and it gives you a written receipt of that deal, right? And if something's off, they'll tell you. But that's a really good way, because what they're going to do when you pop back up in the inbox is they're going to go back to the email and be like, what the hell is this guy talking about? Let's see. And they're going to be like, oh, I remember, right? I remember what that was. And that's going to be a good trigger. Also, your picture should be in your email, so that they can see your photo along with that. However you want to match it up. But if it's your logo, that may be a little bit of a miss, because they're going to want that. Like if people are visual, they're going to want to follow up. When I have a meeting with a prospect, I'm such a visual person. I will screenshot the Zoom and I will put it in my notes, because I will remember that image before I remember the name. So whatever those things are to help you, but this is a great way to accomplish that. And I'm happy to send you this list, and it's a little bit more built out in the one pager that I have. Some of you guys will send me something in LinkedIn, and please do connect with me on LinkedIn. That what I've noticed about that is that sometimes I'll get messages and I'm like, man, I checked my messages after the call and I didn't have any, or I've got to everyone, and then somebody will pop up that's like, been there for a week and a half waiting. So my email is definitely the best way for me to get these over to you. And I'm happy to share and happy to send. So what questions should you ask yourself today? This is kind of the gut check on the workshop. So this is going to expose if you're building that sales machine, if you're just kind of winging it, right? So do you really know your top 3 ICP profiles by pain, not by persona? So if you can't name the exact failed solution, their urgency trigger, business cost, then it's still kind of in fantasy land, not real. Is my cold email reply rate above 8%? If not, then your messaging is broken. 8%. Did I write that? Did I write 8%? I feel like this should be like 4 or 5%. That's a little high. I'm gonna call myself out on that one. 8's great these days.
Chat's agreeing with you.
Chat's calling me out too.
No, they're agreeing with you. You corrected it, so they're on the same
Okay.
page.
All right, cool. Thank you. How many touches per op does it take to book a meeting? Just go do the math on it. You need to know your average touch count per channel. Email might be, one number, cold call might be another number, LinkedIn might be another. So just track that and, put it on your calendar, like, weekly or monthly on a Friday, and just block yourself off time to like dig into these metrics and make sure that, you're holding yourself accountable to what's real right now. Can I explain every deal in my pipeline in one sentence? Right? Try it right now. If you can't say, this deal is with a VP of ops who's losing $100,000 a month from churn and really tried product X and it failed, right? Then if you can't do that, then it's not a deal. It's just a conversation that you're having with someone. And then number 5, if I got hit by a bus or broke my arm and went in the hospital, whatever, could someone else sell this thing, right? So make sure that you're capturing those call scripts and things now, so that call scripts, CRM with notes, sequenced follow-ups, templates for outbound, like someone should be able to step in and take over if something happens to you. And also it's just great for when the time comes.
Hey Laura, real
Um,
quick, just
yeah.
a super fast one. Simon brings up an interesting point here. When we talk about touches per op, how do you think about an in-person touch versus like a digital touch? Like, does it count as like two touches or just how do you kind of think about that?
So here's the thing. If it's like okay, let's say Chris, you're my prospect, right? And I say, hey dude, let's meet for coffee and let's talk about XYZ, right? And we both know the reason that we're meeting, then I would call that a touch. If I ask you to coffee and you think it's like chill hangout time and I'm going, no, man, I'm going to sell to this guy. If you don't know that, that's not a touch, right? Like it's got to be somebody showing up to a call or a place knowing what it is. Now,
Mhm.
can you run into someone at a party and it actually turn into a selling conversation? Yes. But in my opinion, it's got to be reciprocated. So it's the difference between a crush and a date, right? And everybody knows what that means. If it's a crush, this is not a real opportunity because that person may not know that they're being crushed upon, or they may like they don't get a choice about that, right? But if you and I both come to the table knowing, yeah, I'm open to have this conversation, then you can call it a touch.
Love it. Yeah, the crush versus date. I love that, and the chat loves it too. So that makes a lot of
Okay.
sense.
Awesome. Thank you, Chad. My niece used to say that a lot, and now I know what it means. Um, Great question. Thank you for asking. Um, And that's the hard part is measuring these things when you're out. Like, how do you get it back into your CRM? And some CRMs have great apps, like you can put it in your notes. You just got to develop some like rigor around how you're going to do that and when it's important. Um, so look at the quality of the meeting, and that should help you out. Um, So kind of our point of view, this is why, Darwinian exists and why founders bring us in. What we hear over and over from founders, who call us is like, hey, I've gotten to 200K. Now everything is stalling, right? Or I'm running this founder-led sales with no process. My HubSpot's half broken. Or my investors want metrics and I only have vibes, right? So this is where we come in. So some of you may be like way too early for this, or some of you it may be your sweet spot right now. But the founder-led piece is not forever and ever. That's the good, that's the great part. So if you're about to hire reps or overhire senior people before you have a repeatable motion, we're kind of the third path for that, right? So we're going to help build something that's repeatable to that first million, and not just faster, but cleaner, tighter, with receipts, forecast over feelings, all of that kind of stuff. Um, so thanks for letting me do a shameless plug for Darwinian. What you should do now is go rewrite those 5 emails, do the ICP work, audit kind of your last 3 calls and figure out, hey, am I diagnosing or am I pitching here? Track your sales math. And if there's no improvement in 30 days, then you probably didn't implement the program, right? Um, so yeah, go get your hands dirty. Thank you so much, guys. I'll